At 2:17 in the morning, the emergency room at St. Vincent Memorial Hospital in downtown Chicago looked like a war zone. Ambulance sirens screamed outside. Nurses rushed stretchers through crowded hallways. Someone was crying near the reception desk. A little boy covered in blood held tightly onto a teddy bear while doctors fought to save his mother nearby. And standing in the center of all that chaos was Dr. Maya Brooks, one of the best trauma surgeons in the entire state of Illinois. Her gloves were soaked red. Sweat rolled down her forehead. She had already completed 3 surgeries in the last 6 hours without sitting down once, but none of that mattered to her. Not when lives were on the line. "Dr. Brooks, we've got another gunshot victim incoming," a nurse shouted. Maya immediately turned toward the trauma doors. "Prep operating room 2 now." The nurse nodded and ran. Everybody in that hospital respected Maya. Patients trusted her. Nurses depended on her. Residents followed her like soldiers following a commander in war. She was calm under pressure, brilliant in surgery, and known for saving patients other hospitals had already given up on. But despite all of that, there was one thing Maya could never escape: the color of her skin. Because no matter how many lives she saved, there were still people inside that hospital who looked at her and only saw a black woman. And tonight, one of those people was about to make the biggest mistake of his life. The sliding hospital doors suddenly burst open as a group of expensive black SUVs pulled into the emergency entrance outside. Security guards rushed in first. Then came a tall white man in a $1,000 suit, silver hair perfectly combed back, face cold and arrogant. Richard Whitmore, the new owner of St. Vincent Memorial Hospital, one of the richest healthcare investors in America, and one of the most hated men in the building. Everyone knew about Whitmore. Ever since buying the hospital 3 months earlier, he'd fired dozens of workers, cut staff salaries, reduced free care programs for poor families, and turned the hospital into a money-making machine. Nurses hated him. Doctors feared him. But nobody dared challenge him because Whitmore controlled everything. Tonight, he walked through the ER like he owned the world. Behind him, hospital administrators followed nervously. "Where is Dr. Harrison?" Whitmore snapped. A receptionist stuttered nervously. "Sir, Dr. Harrison went home 2 hours ago." Whitmore's jaw tightened. "My wife is being brought here in cardiac arrest and your top heart surgeon went home." Before anyone could answer, paramedics stormed through the entrance, pushing a stretcher at full speed. 58-year-old female. Cardiac collapse during charity event, pulse dropping. Whitmore's face turned pale the second he saw his wife unconscious on the stretcher. "Victoria!" he shouted. The paramedics rushed her toward the trauma room while nurses scrambled around them. Blood pressure crashing. "We're losing oxygen. Where's cardiology?" Maya heard the chaos instantly and walked over fast, pulling off her bloody gloves from the previous surgery. "What do we have?" she asked. One paramedic looked relieved. "Massive cardiac event. She needs immediate surgery." Maya examined the patient quickly. Her expression became serious immediately. "She's got internal bleeding near the aorta," Maya said. "If we don't operate now, she'll die." Whitmore stepped forward. "Good then, get the best surgeon in this hospital." One administrator awkwardly pointed toward Maya. "She is the best surgeon, sir." Whitmore looked at Maya for the first time, and his face changed instantly. Disgust, doubt, judgment, all in one look. "No," Whitmore said coldly. "I want a real surgeon." The entire hallway went silent. Maya stared at him calmly. She had heard comments like this her entire career, but it still burned every time. "I am a real surgeon," she said firmly. Whitmore shook his head. "I'm not letting some diversity hire experiment operate on my wife." Several nurses gasped quietly. One young resident looked furious. But Maya stayed calm because she had dealt with racist patients before. Racist co-workers too. She learned long ago that losing control only made people like Whitmore feel stronger. "She has less than 30 minutes to live," Maya said directly. "You can insult me later. Right now she needs surgery." Whitmore stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You people always rush to prove yourselves," he sneered. "I said, get me someone qualified." The hallway became painfully quiet. Maya felt every eye watching her. Some nurses looked angry, others looked heartbroken because they already knew this wasn't the first time Maya had been treated like this. Not even close. 2 years earlier, a white patient refused to let Maya touch him because he thought black doctors were less educated. Maya still saved his life after he collapsed during surgery. Another time, a hospital donor assumed Maya was part of the cleaning staff and asked her to refill his coffee, and now this. The owner of the hospital itself was publicly humiliating her while his wife was dying. A younger doctor finally stepped forward nervously. "Sir, Dr. Brooks has one of the highest survival rates in the country." Whitmore snapped toward him immediately. "I don't care if she's Oprah with a scalpel, find me another surgeon." Suddenly, one of the heart monitors inside the trauma room began screaming. Victoria Whitmore's condition was crashing. A nurse rushed out. We're losing her. Maya didn't hesitate. Another second. Move, she ordered. She pushed past Whitmore and entered the trauma room. Whitmore grabbed her arm aggressively. I said you are not touching my wife. Maya yanked her arm free and stared directly into his eyes. If you stop me right now, she said coldly, your wife dies in the next 10 minutes. Whitmore froze. For the first time all night, fear cracked through his arrogance. Maya turned to the surgical team. Prep or two immediately. The nurses moved instantly. Whitmore stood there, breathing heavily, torn between his racism and the horrifying reality that the woman he insulted was the only person who could save his wife. As they rushed Victoria towards surgery, Whitmore shouted after Maya one last time, if anything happens to her, I'll destroy your career. Maya stopped briefly without turning around. Then she said something that made the entire hallway freeze. If I fail tonight, I lose a patient. But if you fail tonight, you lose your wife. And then she disappeared into the operating room. Inside the aura, the atmosphere was intense. Machines beeped rapidly. Surgical lights glowed bright white overhead. Nurses prepared instruments at lightning speed while Maya scrubbed in silently. But underneath her calm expression, emotions were boiling. Not fear. Not nervousness. Pain. Because no matter how successful she became, people like Whitmore still saw her as less than human. Her father used to warn her about this. When Maya was 14 years old, she once asked him why she always had to work twice as hard as everyone else. Her father looked at her sadly and said, because some people already decided who you are before you even speak. That sentence stayed with her forever, and tonight proved he was right. A nurse interrupted her thoughts softly. You okay, Dr. Brooks? Maya nodded once. Let's save her. The surgery began immediately. Victoria's heart rate kept dropping dangerously. Blood filled the surgical field. The damage near the artery was worse than expected. She's crashing, someone shouted. Maya worked fast but carefully. Suction, clamp, more pressure, every movement precise, every decision immediate. Outside the operating room, Whitmore paced back and forth like a man losing his mind. His expensive suit was stained with sweat now. The arrogant billionaire image was slowly disappearing. One administrator tried calming him down. Dr. Brooks is exceptional. Whitmore snapped immediately. She's taking too long. She's been operating for 40 minutes, sir. This is a major procedure. Whitmore rubbed his face anxiously. For the first time in years, money couldn't fix his problem. Power couldn't fix it. Control couldn't fix it. Only the black surgeon he humiliated could. Suddenly, another doctor approached Whitmore carefully. Sir, there's something you should know. Whitmore looked irritated. What? The doctor hesitated. 3 years ago, Dr. Brooks performed emergency surgery on a senator after a plane crash. So that senator survived because she operated for 11 straight hours. Whitmore stayed silent. The doctor continued carefully. She also saved a 6-year-old boy during a hospital blackout using only backup lighting and manual equipment. Whitmore's expression slowly shifted, not into kindness, not yet, but uncertainty. Because deep down, reality was beginning to crush his prejudice. Inside the OR, Maya finally located the source of the bleeding. There, she said sharply. I need another clamp now. The team moved quickly. Victoria's heart monitor suddenly stabilized slightly. A nurse looked shocked, pulse improving. Maya stayed focused. Not yet. Minutes later, she repaired the damaged artery with unbelievable precision. Then suddenly, the monitor normalized. The room fell silent. Everyone stared. One nurse whispered, "She did it." Maya slowly stepped back, exhausted. Victoria Whitmore was alive. Outside the OR, Whitmore stood up immediately when the doors opened. Maya removed her gloves slowly. Your wife survived. Whitmore looked stunned. She needed recovery time, but she's stable now. For a moment, he said nothing. His eyes filled with emotion. Then came the part nobody expected. Whitmore looked around at the staff watching him, and his face hardened again. Instead of apologizing, he said, Good. That's what I pay doctors for. Several nurses looked disgusted. One resident actually muttered, Unbelievable. But Maya just stared at Whitmore quietly. She realized something sad in that moment. Some people would rather choke on their own pride than admit they were wrong. Whitmore walked toward the ICU without another word, but as Maya turned away exhausted, one older nurse touched her shoulder gently. You saved her life after everything he said to you. Maya gave a tired smile. That's my job. But deep down, the pain stayed with her. And she had no idea the entire hospital was about to witness something that would completely expose Richard Whitmore forever. The next morning, news spread quickly through the hospital about what happened. Staff whispered in hallways. Nurses exchanged angry looks. Residents quietly discussed Whitmore's racist comments during rounds. Because people were tired. Tired of pretending racism didn't exist in places like hospitals. Tired of watching brilliant black professionals constantly forced to prove they deserved respect. And most of all, tired of powerful men like Richard Whitmore, humiliating good people without consequences. What Whitmore didn't know was that someone recorded everything. One of the ER nurses had accidentally left her phone recording during the confrontation. Every insult, every racist comment, every moment. And by noon, the video leaked online. Within hours, social media millions of views, millions of angry comments. People across America were outraged. He called the woman who saved his wife unqualified. Fire him. This is why black doctors leave the profession. Dr. Maya Brooks deserves better. News stations picked up the story immediately. By evening, reporters crowded outside St. Vincent Memorial Hospital. And inside his luxury office on the top floor, Richard Whitmore watched his empire begin collapsing in real time. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. Sponsors pulled away. Board members panicked. Investors demanded explanations. One executive shouted through speakerphone, "You publicly insulted one of the most respected surgeons in America." Whitmore slammed the desk angrily. "She disobeyed me. She saved your wife." Silence. For the first time, Whitmore had no response. Meanwhile, downstairs, Maya tried ignoring the chaos. She continued treating patients quietly like always, but the hospital felt different now. Nurses smiled at her proudly. Patients thanked her emotionally. Even strangers online called her a hero. Still, Maya didn't feel victorious. Because none of this erased the years of humiliation she endured. None of it erased the pain. Late that evening, Maya entered the ICU to check Victoria Whitmore personally. To her surprise, Victoria was awake. Weak, pale, but alive. When Victoria saw Maya, tears instantly filled her eyes. "You're the doctor," she whispered. Maya nodded gently. "How are you feeling?" Victoria stared at her emotionally. "My husband told me what happened." Maya stayed quiet. Victoria's voice trembled. "You still saved me after he treated you like that." Maya adjusted her chart calmly. "You were my patient." Victoria looked ashamed. Then quietly, she said something unexpected. "My father was black." Maya looked up slowly. Victoria gave a weak, painful smile. "My mother's family hated him for marrying her. Richard knows that." Maya's expression changed slightly. Victoria looked toward the window sadly. Sometimes money hides who people really are. For the first time, Maya saw genuine pain in her eyes. Not just physical pain, emotional pain. Years of it. Then Victoria whispered something that shocked Maya completely. "You're not the first black woman he's humiliated." Maya felt a chill run through her body. Victoria closed her eyes sadly. "But you're the first one powerful enough to survive it." Outside the ICU room, reporters continued gathering. Inside the hospital boardroom, emergency meetings lasted all night, and by the next morning, everything changed. Richard Whitmore arrived at the hospital expecting support from the board. Instead, he walked into silence. Cold silence. Every executive looked uncomfortable. One board member slid papers across the table. "What's this?" Whitmore asked angrily. "Resignation documents?" Whitmore froze. "You can't be serious." Another board member leaned forward. "You became a national scandal overnight. I own this hospital." "Not anymore." Whitmore's face went pale. The chairman spoke carefully. "Your investors forced an emergency vote at dawn." Whitmore looked stunned. "They removed you." The room stayed silent. For the first time in years, Richard Whitmore looked powerless. Completely powerless. Meanwhile, downstairs, Maya was finishing another surgery when the hospital intercom suddenly activated. "Dr. Maya Brooks, please report to the main lobby." Confused, Maya walked downstairs. The second she entered the lobby, she froze. Hundreds of hospital staff stood waiting. Doctors, nurses, janitors, receptionists, patients, all applauding. The entire lobby erupted with cheers. Maya looked overwhelmed. Then the hospital chairman stepped forward holding a microphone. "Dr. Brooks," he said proudly, "this hospital almost forgot what true leadership looks like." The crowd applauded again. The chairman smiled warmly. "You saved a life while being humiliated publicly. You showed more professionalism, strength, and humanity in one night than Richard Whitmore showed in his entire career." Maya looked speechless. Then came the biggest shock of all. The chairman handed her a folder. "We would like to officially offer you the position of Chief Medical Director of St. Vincent Memorial Hospital." The entire lobby exploded. Some nurses were literally crying. Maya stared at the folder in disbelief. Years of disrespect. Years of fighting to prove herself. Years of surviving racism quietly, and now, The same hospital that once allowed her humiliation was finally recognizing her value. Maya slowly looked around the lobby, at the people cheering for her, at the young black medical students watching her with inspiration in their eyes, at the nurses who supported her through everything. Then Maya smiled softly, not because she defeated Richard Whitmore, but because for the first time, she no longer felt invisible. And upstairs in a private room, Richard Whitmore watched the celebration on television completely alone. The woman he called unqualified had just become the face of the hospital he lost. And deep down, he finally understood something too late. The most dangerous thing about racism is not just the hatred, it's the blindness. Because hatred blinds people from recognizing greatness standing right in front of them. And Richard Whitmore lost everything because of it.